Yeah, probably the hardest advice, which is focus on one thing and master that before you move on to the next. If you have an issue, then solve that issue. If you're not having calls, then solve that issue.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. Today, my guest is Jacob Lundén Welden, a LinkedIn career coach who helps professionals land their next role by tapping into LinkedIn's hidden job market. Through his data-driven approach, Jacob guides job seekers in building connections, leveraging their network, and navigating the job search with confidence. He's the founder of TechRoot and the creator of a free email course that has helped hundreds of people transform their careers. I'm excited to dive into his strategies for career growth and networking. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Thank you, Rexon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, Jacob. It's a pleasure. Tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to become a career coach.
Yeah, so I used to work at LinkedIn, and a big part of my job there was obviously to work with the companies. But a side part of the job was that every once in a while, in some of the offices, they host walk-in events where job seekers can walk in and get access to the LinkedIn employees and get help understanding the platform and how to get a job. And I realized that there was a big gap of understanding amongst people and how to use the platform to actually land a job. And so here I am today, just making sure that people understand the platform and how it's built, what you can do to kind of hack the products that recruiters use to find people.
And how did that journey change once you became a coach, once you started your coaching business to where you are at right now?
Yeah, well, I left LinkedIn before I was fully set up. So I probably did the opposite way of what everyone tells you to do. For me, it was really just jumping in the deep end of the pool. Now, that also means that I probably made every mistake under the sun. But coming from a sales background, it's been just learning from every no, which I think has been very important for me, and getting that feedback and like chasing the feedback as to why someone doesn't want to do it, like honest feedback. It's very easy to accept an objection and just take that as proof, like, oh, I just don't have time. Like, no, what's the real reason? What's going on? And from every no, just don't take that personal, and then just improve your messaging and improve the way you present yourself and the way you present your program and the outcomes that you get from being coached by you, all of those things. So that has been the biggest journey that I've taken. Because I mean, I'll be open and say I've probably gotten 200 no's just this year. But that also means that I've been speaking to 200 people, right? It's to learn from them and present an even better offer in the future to more people.
Is there a specific demographic or client persona that you're working with, and what transformation do you help them achieve?
Yeah, so my ICP, or like my ideal candidate, is probably for most of us, it's myself, right? So people in tech sales or people trying to get into tech sales. But as I've been working a lot, and we can talk a little bit more about like my lead gen strategies, I've been kind of getting into a lot more with people who are looking to move. So it's not necessarily tech sales, but people are looking to move from, Sweden to Dublin, or from Spain to Sweden, or from, India to Europe, or from Europe to the US, and where they feel really lost as to how to go about it, and where their strategies that they've typically used to get a job just don't work, because maybe it's a different platform they need to use, maybe they definitely don't really have a network in that area. And so I've been helping them, like people who are moving, understand how to do that in the best way possible.
Okay. So initially when you said moving, I thought is a career pivot, but it's actually moving, like relocating.
Yeah, like country, right? So if I were to move to, like you said, you're traveling right now. So if I were to move to like somewhere in Asia, I wouldn't know the first thing about which platforms to use locally. I don't have a network that I can lean on. And so I'm kind of starting from scratch. And if I don't really know how to do that, that's where I have been coming in. But that's not necessarily my ICP. But they are the ones who engage with my content and who, book calls with me.
Cool. And where do you find your clients? And you can talk both about the clients that you're working with, which is maybe not the ICP, but also where would you find the ICP? Like what marketing strategy are you using? What marketing channel is working best for you?
Yeah, it would be a remiss for me to say that I don't use LinkedIn, having worked at LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is definitely my main channel. in terms of finding new people. Once I've found people, I then also use ConvertKit to nurture people and to like keep myself top of mind to them and to give them more value and all of those good things. Now, I read a research, I don't know if this is true or not, but I read a research that you need to spend about 4 hours with someone before they become a buyer. And so the ConvertKit is just to add in a few more of those minutes and hours that they spend with you before they trust you with their money. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, and then I push a lot of different types of events and webinars and all of these things through LinkedIn.
When it comes to ConvertKit, this is like a platform to build your funnel, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, ConvertKit is like an email. I'd say it's more like an email client, if that makes sense, right? So you can set up like sequences. You can set up things, forms, all of these things. You can kind of automate email outreaches to people. So for example, you mentioned I have a free email course. The way I've set it up is just creating a sequence with a landing page. So the moment you sign up, you then get put into the sequence that then will send you 6 emails over the next 6 days. At the end of that, then I send one of my guides. I can monetize that then quite automatically and easily to that point. Now, what happens ideally, right, is that everyone buys the guides, but obviously that doesn't happen, but a conversion happens. And that for me is then buyer intent. So if you're willing to spend 10 euros based because you attended my webinar, we went through the free email course and you say like, okay, I trust this guy to spend 10, 20, 30 euros, whatever, then at least you've shown or you've proven that you're willing to put money to solving your issue. And that's one way that I make sure that I increase, like say, qualification of the people that I talk to and to increase the conversion. But ConvertKit just allows me to automate and manage many emails at the same time.
Great. So basically, you get them in a low ticket offer, and then once they buy, you can qualify them and try to get them on a call to speak with you, right? And then get them on your coaching program. So this is kind of like the middle of the funnel in that case. What about generating these people to begin with? What is the strategy inside LinkedIn?
Yeah, loads, a lot. This is probably one of the hardest things I had to do. Even though I've been in sales, in a way, like when you work at LinkedIn or like some of the global companies, you kind of given a script in a way, right? Like the product speaks for itself a lot of times. It's been very different where I have to create the script. And when I started off creating content, honestly, that for me was just market research. What I mean with that is I would write down step by step, stage by stage, my whole coaching program, and then I would push out certain elements of that as content. If that didn't get good engagement, I would try it one more time. And if it still didn't get good engagement, then I would have to rethink of, is this something that people are willing to pay money for then? Because if no one cares about that specific part, then I can't pitch it to them. Or do I believe that this is super important, so I need to rephrase how I talk about it? So one of the prime examples I have for that is that I used to talk a lot about the need to optimize your profile, but I'm sure everyone who's a career coach ever talks about optimizing their profile. So those type of posts performed really, really poorly. When I connected that to the outcome, which is how to make LinkedIn work for you, then even though I'm talking about the same things, now it's written in a way that people care about. It's written towards an outcome that people are looking towards. Everything I do, I try to just base it on what I'm coaching, the key kind of activation points and the value you get at each of those activation points. And I post about that. Those are my like day-to-day bread and butter posts. I am a big fan of LinkedIn newsletters. One is because they're automated. So every time I get a connection or get a new follower, they're automatically sent a subscription request. It's very easy and natural to grow that. And 2, of course, it creates a post on LinkedIn, but it's also sent out then to the email of each and every one of those subscribers. So it's a very simple way to build your reach quite easily. So I write a weekly newsletter as well on every Monday. Every Wednesday, I then nurture through ConvertKit as well. And that's typically more action-oriented things. Because what I want there is to, like that they try it and see that it works. And so then they want more and they contact me. And then on top of that, it's events, it's webinars, it's, all of these things. I go at the first event being free because I feel like I need to, maybe or maybe not, it's a lot easier when people see what I have to talk about, that they go, okay, crap, like this was really, really good. What more can we do? And at that stage, I've then enticed them to kind of sign a partnership or long term. So that means that I tend to target widely anywhere from universities so that they set me up on a yearly retainer type of service, to then finding people using all the LinkedIn tools from Sales Navigator to even I honestly actually think that LinkedIn Recruiter is probably a better tool as a career coach because I can see the spotlights, one of which is open to work. I can actually find all the people who have identified that they're looking for a job right now. So that's for me an easier way than to try to find Sales Navigator, and even it has very similar filters, but I want to speak to people who are open to work. And not, with visibility, you can put that to recruiters only. So obviously I can look for people with a banner, but I want to find the people who do not have the banner. And so, yeah, I try to push them then through messaging and all of these things, right? Connections and messaging and inviting them to my webinars, where I then push them into my email course, into pitching the guides and getting those buyer intents, and then getting them into a one-on-one call. Now, I am very focused on that part because initially my funnel delivered about 50 calls a week. A month, 50 calls a month. That was great, but then I had to do 50 calls. But the issue was that they were not qualified. And so I'm doing all of this just to qualify the people. So I'm making it more difficult to book calls with me. But at that stage, like even at the point of booking a call, I'm telling them like, hey, my services do not cost 100 euros here, right? You're going to be working with me over the next 3 to 6 months, or maybe even 9 months. Like I don't tell them the price advance, but like just think about how much you would charge for 6 months of work. And that's probably where I'm at anyways, right? I can state those questions and people accept that because I've given them so much value upfront. It's all about posts, webinars, to all of these things. And now the last thing I'll say with that as well is I use Zapier to send anyone who does anything. So if you sign up to my webinars, if you sign up on a one-on-one call with me, if you sign up to the email course, you're automatically pushed to ConvertKit as well. So that way I've started ConvertKit 2 months ago, and I've already got like 500 subscribers onto it because I'm converting onto all of my, like anything and everything. And I make sure that I have like feedback form as well. So anyone who answers my feedback form is automatically put into ConvertKit. It's just converting on anything, any action that people take with me, I convert that into a potential lead. But obviously, if you answer like a feedback form, doesn't mean you're ready to buy, right? So then I need to nurture you, all of these things.
Wow, that was very comprehensive, and it seems like this is working very well, and it creates those multiple touch points. I didn't know about the LinkedIn newsletter. That's something I learned from you.
It's like a hidden, because I mean everyone knows about the newsletter, but if I say like this, every week I'm emailing through the LinkedIn newsletter about 2,000 people, and every day I do an event, or I went to a networking event with my university on Saturday and connected with about 40-50 people. Every single one of them then got a subscription request. Obviously I don't do it, right? It's all automated. So it's a very simple way to grow easily quite a large following. Another thing with newsletters, if you don't have one already, is when you create it and you push out your first post, every single one of your connections or followers will get asked to subscribe to the newsletter as well. So when I created mine, I got, I think, about 700 or 800 subscribers just from day one. Like LinkedIn really helps you set up and get a following with your newsletter.
That's very powerful to share. Do you also have thought about utilizing also LinkedIn Gen ads, or that's not been?
Yeah, I've been looking a lot into ads. Now, you asked specifically lead gen ads. Now, I feel like most people who use LinkedIn understand that you can promote posts, but you can promote and pay per action as well, like a lead gen ad. I haven't done it yet because I know like LinkedIn specifically is the most expensive marketing platform. And even though I work there and I know the platform well, I'm still a bit afraid of the quality of lead, and I'm a little bit afraid of the money that you would need to put in before the system starts understanding exactly who you want. Because of course with like LinkedIn, you can retarget people. So for example, I could retarget people who have clicked on my link, which is my email course. I could retarget to them with a specific piece of content or specific piece of ad. But it's like, how much money would I have to spend? A couple of €1,000 before it starts doing that well? And that's what I'm afraid of.
The case with every ads platform, even if it's Facebook, obviously for career coaches, it will be LinkedIn.
I'm working right now on seeing if I can use more Google ads or Facebook ads, more cheaper platforms to drive traffic to my webinars. Because again, if you sign up to my webinar, you're automatically put in through Zapier to my email course. So it's like, obviously I want to sell to the people on the webinar as well, obviously. But if I can get 200 people to sign up to the webinar, then that's just 200 emails. And I find that that's worth an investment of maybe €200 to €400. Because my goal with the link or the ConvertKit with the emails, honestly, is to try to get up to like 1,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 emails. And that's also why I partner a lot with the universities, because universities have access to like 10,000 students, all of them. But if I sell a guide at €30 and I have access to 10,000 emails in my email list and 1% converts, that's still 100 purchases. That's still, €3,000 off of just one guide that you make in an afternoon or something like this. I mean, the guides you can create about like AI, about LinkedIn optimization, about all of these things, right? So yeah, that's the goal with building the email list ultimately. So I'm not pitching them anything yet because email list is too young or too new. But once I get to kind of like 1,000 subscribers to the email, then at that stage, I think it starts to make sense too.
One thing I wanted to ask is because you mentioned they use Zapier to automatically move them to the newsletter. Is there any like concern when it comes to consent, especially because thinking you're in Europe, which is kind of more sensitive a little bit? Have you thought about an issue there, or you think there's still?
No, I mean, in all of the documents, all the forms, I try to add in a little note. Now, if people see it or not, if it, If it's there, it's a different thing. Obviously, there's unsubscribe things, all of that. If you want to unsubscribe at any given time, you can do it. I try to cover all my bases. I'm sure if I have like a GDPR lawyer, maybe there's something I missed, but yeah, I try to cover my bases with that.
Thanks so much for sharing your strategy. Do you have any future goals that you're working towards for the next 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, of course. I think first is like, obviously I want to make it to $1 million, all of these things, right? But like, let's pull that down to just making your next 10K per month, right? So if you're making 10K, let's see what you can do to make 20K. If you're making 20K, let's see what you can do to make 30K a month. And once you do that enough, you're going to be at that million eventually. Now, one thing I'm working a lot on is, and as you heard, is if I only work through one type of product, then eventually I run out of time. So if I only work with what probably most of us work with, which is one-on-one coaching, there's only that much I could, like, there's like an uncanny valley there, right? If I want to bring in my next 10 clients, I need to spend time on lead gen and on content and on doing the discovery calls and all these things. And that would take time away from them being able to deliver the coaching. I felt that, like, okay, scaling eventually, you have to redo the offering. You can do that through group coaching or hybrid coaching. I find that hybrid coaching and group coaching is very difficult unless you have a very large following, because like no one is going to pay you 3,000 euros for a hybrid program, right? So you need scale, and you need to add a scale that's much larger than if you ask for 20 euros. And so I don't feel like myself I'm at that stage. I feel like if you have like 30, 40, 50,000 followers, then maybe you could do it. Yeah, I need to get to that. For me, like the business goal for now is, okay, can I get just the next 10K and scale, and how I have the time to be able to deliver that, and do I need to rethink my services to make that happen?
Yeah, one-on-one is not scalable because it depends on your time. The other thing is you could also consider eventually having another coach.
Yeah, of course, like hiring people, right? Of course, but I always find that revenue should lead costs. So before you hire someone, you should have the fair basis to be able to do that, a fair income stream.
In terms of investment, what resources or support has been most valuable for you growing your coaching business right now?
So I think when I started off, it was very easy. You get your first couple of clients, you get your first maybe 10K, and it's like, oh, I can easily buy this or that. But what I've realized is that a lot of tools you can actually do a lot for free. So Zapier is free up until X amount of like actions that it takes per month. You can have like Calendly, you can have for free. You can have Kit is free up to based on the amount of automations that you want, right? So a lot of things you can do free. Now, as a coach, probably some of the best and probably also worst investments have been in other coaches, because honestly, even as a career coach, sometimes the value that I bring to others is just the knowledge for them to know that they're doing the right things. And so just having someone tell you like, no, this is how it works, this is how you need to do it, you need to think about that. That has been really valuable to me. I have worked with 2 business coaches myself. I recently joined one just recently. Yeah, I was talking about like the sales script. When you work at LinkedIn, you basically get given the easiest sales pitch of your life. Like, okay, how do we increase conversion? What are certain tips and tricks that we can do? How can we create a program that's such a no-brainer that they have to do it? How do you make sure that the people you're talking to feel like you're the only one who can help them with that no-brainer contract or with that no-brainer service? And then is that priced at the right amount? That's what I'm working with right now to make sure that conversion is as high as possible. And that's probably right now I'm feeling really excited about it, at least.
Thanks for sharing it. What is something that you wish you had known when you first started scaling your coaching business? What is an unexpected lesson learned from you?
Yeah, that there are a lot of free platforms or there's a lot of things you can do free. I think an unexpected thing is that whatever you plan, in reality, it almost never happens like that. Like, I don't know if you know about these like personality colors, right? Like blue, green, yellow, red. I'm a very blue person. So blue people tend to get stuck analyzing everything, but they never do. One of the things that I've learned a lot is put it out there, see if you get reaction. Another thing I've learned, which I don't know if people agree with this, but it's to pitch first and then make the program. A lot of times we spend loads of time trying to create all of these guides or like record the video courses or whatever. Make sure you have 20 buyers before you make them, right? Because if not, you're just creating a bunch of stuff that no one's going to buy in the end. Or maybe 1 month later, you feel like actually that guide isn't that good anymore. So yeah, lead with sales and then spend time on delivery. But leading with sales is difficult.
And that comes also from your experience, right? Being a tech salesperson.
Yeah. I mean, in general, in sales, to get a sale, you need a perfect storm. If you fail just one element of it, you're probably not going to get the sale, right? So focusing on outcomes is so important, and making sure that you make the person feel like without your help, they're just never going to be able to solve it, and all of these things. And like nowhere there is typically features, right? So Apple talk a lot about, how many milliamps the new battery is on their new phones or whatever. But like people don't really care about that stuff. We care about the look, right? That's what Apple is selling ultimately. But they need to fill out an event. So they talk about features, but we can't really talk about features of our service and all these things. people don't really care. They want to know, if I work with you, what's the guarantee I get to get a job at the end of it? And that's a lot harder to convince someone. But yeah, if you just focus on high value things, then it's much more likely that someone actually converts at the end of it.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in scaling your coaching business, or that you're currently still facing right now?
I'd say conversion.
In sales, or?
Yeah, honestly. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, I started off having like 50 calls a month, but I was converting maybe one or two of them. While I'm bringing money into the company, I'm also spending like 50 hours in sales calls on top of delivery, and I was like working myself to the ground. And so I'd much rather have 10 calls where I convert 2 or 3 people, right? And I save the 40 extra hours. So yeah, conversion is really, really important. And sometimes it's hard to know what to price yourself at. One thing that we talk a lot about in sales is price yourself at one point, like cheaper than you probably think. And once you get 3 yeses in a row, then increase the price, because that means that it's too cheap. So then we increase the price. I think that has been a process that I've taken myself, rather than outpricing yourself and never getting any clients and then freaking out and then changing everything and then freaking out again, right? It's just, okay, let's start low, let's start easy, low committed with a low value offer. And then once I get 3 yeses in a row, you can almost double it, right?
Yeah.
So I started off at, I think, 1,500 euros. And then I got 3 yeses in a row. I was like, all right, let's bring it up to 2. Let's bring it up to 2.5. Let's bring it up to 3. Because once people see the value that you're pitching, then you can increase the value. So yeah, but that all stems back then to the conversion. So I'm trying to be uber focused on the conversion rates.
And what has been your conversion rate for, let's say, for the last 3-4 months? Or
obviously, initially it was 1 or 2 in 50, which is like crazy bad. And then once I set up this whole system with like the emails and events and like nurturing the clients a lot more, by this time I get to having a call, conversion right now has been more towards like 30-40%. So now I'm back to, okay, how do I book more calls? Because I brought it down to almost just having like maybe 3, 4, 5 calls. So now it's like, okay, how can I scale this back up now to having, like, don't get me wrong, I would love to have 50 calls if I get 1 or 2 clients, right? If I can keep like a 30% conversion, 50 calls, then that's probably an indicator that I need to increase my prices again at that stage anyways.
So you've gotten quite efficient from 50 with 1 or 2 sales to 3, 4
like 5
calls
with 1 or 2 sales, yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice. And 40% is pretty good in terms of close rate from what I know, because I'm not a coach myself, but I've interviewed many coaches.
I think if you can get 20, that's decent. If you have sales experience, then yeah, like 20 to 30 maybe. But like sales experience all boils down to what I said. Creating an offer, that's a no-brainer. Making sure that they feel like you're the only one who can help them solve this, and then price accordingly. So if you do that, that's it. There's no convincing you need to do if your offer is LinkedIn. Don't really have to convince people because they have an offer that's a no-brainer.
With a conversion rate of 30% to 40%, you feel that's still the bottleneck, or would it be like getting more leads at the top at that point?
I narrowed it down so I could focus on more people and provide them more value, and that increased my conversion rate. Now I need to solve an issue I didn't have, which is, okay, how do I bring in more leads that are that qualified, right? So I don't want to bring in 50 calls again that are just random, right? I want to have this amount of qualification at scale. So yeah, now it's back to finding top of funnel, finding more leads and bringing them through the funnel.
Another question I have for you is when you were explaining the fact that you were doing 50 calls with two sales and then you got more efficient over it, but how do you currently handle the balance between delivering great client results and managing business growth on the other side?
Can I say something that might not be appreciated? Managing expectations also means saying no to potential clients. So there's nothing worse bringing in a client just so that they pay you, and then from day one it's just problem after problem after problem. I try to be very strict with myself, and this is the hardest thing, because like if you have someone that almost wants to work with you, they're willing to pay you the cash. Like most of us, I'm sure we have brought in someone that we're like, I don't really want to work with them, but whatever, right? It's just making sure that you sometimes say no as well when you feel like it doesn't feel right, or like I feel like this person might cause problems down the line. And one of those things that for me, or like for any career coach, is if they're not willing to make any change, then it's not really up to you what you do, right? You can coach them or give them as much advice as you want, but if they don't make action or take action, it's very hard. So I try to make sure that I work with people that I feel like are looking to take action. Now, my ICP tech salespeople tend to be very actionable people, or people who take action, whereas also the group where I've had way more success, people looking to move, they're also very actionable people at that stage, because it's like, okay, I'm moving in 3 months, and if I don't have a job, what do I do? So yeah, I try to find or target people that like to take action, and that stems then also from making sure that they have a pain point that you can squeeze a little bit.
What aspects of running your coaching business would figuratively keep you up at night?
Running the business? Yeah, like all of it. I'm a self-critic and sometimes think about a call or an answer or like, oh, should I have done that better? Now, I think that's very healthy at certain parts, but I think I also need to learn maybe a bit more to close the computer and leave work where work is. But yeah, it's all of it, from profitability to funnels to sales calls to conversions to coaching to all of it.
And I can imagine feeling to close your computer, especially when you're in Madrid, right?
Yeah, the issue with Spain is that you work until late very easily because
Yeah.
dinner isn't until 9 or 10 p.m. anyways.
And then daytime, I think it's like late there too. It's like I was there, I can't remember, I think it was May, but it was like 9:30 p.m. It was still daylight outside
Yeah.
Madrid.
Yeah.
So you can work till late. The last question is, and closing question, what advice would you give to other career coaches who are looking to scale their impact, if anything else from what you've shared already?
Yeah, probably the hardest advice, which is focus on one thing and master that before you move on to the next. If you have an issue, then solve that issue. If you're not having calls, then solve that issue. If you're then having too many unqualified calls, then solve that issue. But you're not going to solve having 20 clients a month if you don't have calls, no matter if they're good or bad, right? Hyper focus, hyper fixation on solving the problem that you feel like is stopping you, and take action. Don't analyze too much, just take action and see what happens.
So always focus on like what is the constraint right now,
Yeah.
and then whatever comes next after that.
Especially if you're a solopreneur, no? Like if you have a team behind you, then you can do 25 things at once. But if you have one thing, like for me, I wasn't converting high enough. So at that stage, I cannot also think about how to bring in more qualified calls and also develop a new program and also do all of these things. It's like, no, what's my biggest issue from scaling my business? I need more qualified calls. Let's solve that. Let's hyper fixate on that today and tomorrow and for the next 2 months until I feel like I'm happy.
Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I think a lot of people are going to find the podcast very valuable. All of it, when it comes to lead generation, all of the advice that you've shared, I think is awesome. And for anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can find you on LinkedIn at Jacob Lundén Welden, and they can also find you on your website, which is
techroot.se.
techroot.se. Anyone who wants to connect with you, they can find you there. Thank you so much, Jacob. It was
Thank you,
lovely having you here.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.